Hello, everybody. So I'm back. Finally, I've decided to make another video for everybody at home to enjoy. It's a brilliant time for everyone to experience. Hooray! So this video I haven't really planned out at all, which goes without saying. Most of my videos I don't plan at all. So that's kind of the way I like to do things. I really don't like to get the let my brain figure things out. I kind of just like to jump into the great unknown, you know, and let things figure themselves out as I go. So that being said, lately I moved. You probably already know. I already videoed moving, having moved. Yeah, I fucking got some things rolling for me in a positive way. Still doing tree work. Trying to do a little bit more spiritual stuff though. I'm trying to do tarot readings for people. I'm trying to do, be a little bit of a voice of reason, if you will, with people on those type of topics like spiritual, philosophical, psychological type shit. Not that I claim to be an expert, but just that I personally would like to help, and I would like to think that maybe some of my advices are valuable. Um, but so I recently found within my spell book that I own a spell that is attract witch friends. So I was like, fuck yeah, I want fucking more witch friends. That's dope. So when I read that bit, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this spell. I'm totally gonna do this spell. But I didn't do it right away. But strangely enough, within like 2 days after reading that and committing to doing it, two people added me on Facebook and were like, hey, I noticed that I guess mutual friends or whatever. And I was like, okay, like, I thought you'd be a cool person to be friends with. And I was like, fuck yeah. Like, we talking about like all cool shit, like kind of like spiritual stuff and like crystals and like abilities, like paranormal abilities, psychic abilities and shit like that. Like, these guys are fucking witches. So, like, just out of the blue, like, that doesn't normally happen. So I was like, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I'll do the spell, though. I'll keep committed to that. So I did that this past Friday. And the spell in the book, it says you should do it on a Friday on a new moon. And it just so happens that the day that I pulled the spell book out last Friday, I was like, oh, maybe I'll do it. I got time. Is exactly like Thursday was the new moon. Friday was the day that I chose to do it. And I was like, holy fuck, like, this is lining up perfectly. And then, so I did the spell, and I didn't know I was going out that night. I was just going to hang out with a buddy of mine that I hadn't seen in a long time and chilled with, and I had something of his that he left in my truck, so I went to go chill with him, drop off that thing, and he's like, okay, well, let's go play some pool or whatever. So I was like, okay, let's play pool. Fucking went, and there's like, I met two gentlemen there who, interestingly enough, were like onto, like, interested in, like, I'm a rapper. This one fellow, we started rapping outside of the bar, and we fucking just rapping back and forth, and made friends with that fellow. And I was kind of like, this guy's cool. Like, maybe we could even rap together, make a song or some shit. And this other guy, fucking complete nerd for fucking quantum physics and electromagnetism and all like super intense like sciences and stuff like that. And I was like, man, like fucking, I was talking to him. Well, first thing I was like, you look like a interesting and whimsical fellow, just based on his attire. And he was like, yes. And we just started talking about, existentialism and our interests and like how reality works and fucking all cool shit. And this guy was cool. Like I'm a super spiritual guy, and I was kind of tossing in like philosophical kind of existential questions in there into our conversation from time to time. And he was right there with me. Like he seems like he's a bit of an agnostic or atheist or whatever. Like I'm not sure if, like, he didn't really say that he believed in any type of spiritual thing, but he was like right there, and I was like, yeah, this guy's dope. And to me, that's like a witch, a fucking somebody who has power, I guess. Doesn't mean you have to be like have a black cat and fucking wear a pointy hat or whatever, or cook up potions and all that bullshit. Like I have a book that's like natural magic, and it's talking about just simply like knowing nature, knowing how to to encourage growth and encourage nature and stuff like that. Like magic, the very definition of magic is to affect reality in accordance with one's will. So basically, to say like I want to plant a seed and grow a healthy tomato plant, like that's magic. To utilize your resources to achieve your will, to achieve what it is that you want. And it's kind of a loose term, and it can be, critiqued philosophically, like really a lot. Like the idea of will itself, the idea of what is will, what is your will, your power, your willpower, the power of your effort, your mind, your mental kind of concentration. But Aleister Crowley, the great magical philosopher Aleister Crowley, in his work in Thelema, he proposes, well, I'm not sure if he initiated that theory, but he discusses the concepts that the true will of the human soul is to do what it is that is the most natural for them to do. Their true being, their true power, their true souls, like their divine souls' true goal in life is to enact their will in physical reality. So for a singer, it would be to sing, to touch the hearts with their voice and music. For an architect, their true will would be to make masterpieces that are, that are admirable, that evoke like appreciation for their structures. Not to do shoddy work. That wouldn't be the true will. The true will would be to do good, to do good in the world, to do good things. And so there are some people that would argue that your true will doesn't have, that a human's true will doesn't have anything to do with goodness or righteousness. But I would wholeheartedly disagree. I would wholeheartedly argue that the goodness, because we have within our capacity as human beings to acknowledge better, like to acknowledge the more perfect side of things, to acknowledge perfection, to acknowledge symmetry, to acknowledge visual beauty as opposed to, less beautiful things. To acknowledge a better feeling versus a lesser feeling, a more loving, kind of encouraging, compassionate experience versus the opposite of that. We have within our program this spectrum, so to speak, of the capacity to understand better from lesser. So we have the capacity to understand more righteous things and less righteous things. So it is our true will, because we have within our capacity to acknowledge the polarity between lesser and greater. It's within our program to be like, oh, well, I want better, and I want to create for others. I want to manifest, help to grow the better things in this world, because I came from this world, I live in this world, and I'm going to leave this world for those behind me, for most likely my children and my grandchildren. Why would I not want to grow something that is better, more divine, more beautiful, more, encouraging of love? And that truly is, that's the great work. That's the Masonics. That's the work of the Mason, is to build. But the thing about the Masons is that it's simply become the idea to just simply be a builder, to be an architect, to help to build this world. And so I'm concerned that there may be some Masons out there who are not entirely aligned with the fact that it is our duty as Masons, is our duty as, conscious, capable, sentient beings to build the light and not build the dark, to build that which is, righteous and, beneficial, instead of building barriers, building deception, building ugliness in the world. So for me, I know I kind of got off track there, but I did a spell. I did a spell to summon witch friends, to gather together, people of like mind, to build a community of people whom I can help to build with. So the interesting thing is that this type of shit started happening for me before I even did the spell. But then it's like it kept growing, like it kept happening. I did the spell, and the interesting thing is that the spell, the act of doing the spell, has absolutely no relation to the people I'm meeting, has absolutely no connective physical relation towards what was actually ensuing. So whether or not you believe that me doing the spell affected reality, whether or not you believe that me doing an exercise, whatever, affected the minds, theoretically, of these people and allowed me to connect with them, that, there's absolutely no way that we could scientifically prove that that's what happened, or at least not right now. Not that it's obviously it's already happened. We haven't laid down the ground rules for a double-blind study or anything like that. But for me, in my experience, that's what seems to have happened. And the other interesting thing is like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did I start to move towards this kind of this connective energy in my life, this energy of being able to manifest people and friendships easier in my transpirings, my transgressions amongst the rest of the community in this world or whatever. And because I was starting to do that already, then I saw this passage in the book and I was like, oh, my mind was like, oh, that's what I want. That's what I'm doing right now. Why not do that? Like, it's like the chicken or the egg thing in that sense, is that like these energies were potentially already happening. And then I did this exercise to placebo affect my brain to be like, oh yeah, I've pressed that button now and it's gonna occur, you know, who knows? But the thing is, for me, is that reality, or at the very least, how I see the world, how I see existence, is that there are a plethora of different transpiring energies and changes and kind of comminglings of frequency that are going on that we can't see, that are always going on. And like quantum physics, there's, you know, it's such a delicate balance when something ever so subtle changes, the subtlest electromagnetic influence onto a proton or whatever, an electron or a molecule, it can alter the course of things. You know, the energy that I'm referring to is like an ocean of flow, and we are in the flow. We're not separate from the flow, but we are attached to the physical sensory organs that basically don't sense into that. Like, our sensory organs only have a limited portion of that energy, and so we create our reality based on the limited sensory organs that we have. So it seems like we are separate. It seems like we're a bubble in the ocean. We're not penetrating out and it's not penetrating in. But the fact of the matter is that everything is the ocean. There's no one thing that's not the ocean. This mug is the ocean of energy, and the contents within the mug is also the ocean of energy. It's just that it's like an eddy or a wave that's acting on its own its own motion is slightly different than that of the computer that I'm filming on right now. You know, like it's flowing in a different pattern. That makes it seem like it's a separate thing. Like a wave in the ocean is not separate from the wave, or not separate from the ocean. It's the ocean. It's just acting on its own kind of structure of flow that seems separate from the rest of the ocean's flow, but it's connected. So the idea that my thoughts and my intentions are not localized to my brain, that I'm when I change my mind about what I want, what I'm going to strive for, or anything like that, any thought patterns, when we change our mind, it's like, okay, now this really advanced electromagnetic frequency emitting organism has changed its pattern subtly, potentially not so subtly. If I was to be like, and I would just fucking cast out these different waves, you know, this different form of energies being cast out, and it's affecting everything, but we don't see the effect. And then that's the hard to grasp thing for those people who don't believe in the spiritual world, who don't believe in all that woo stuff, is that it's such a disconnect from what many kind of not so curious scientific minds adhere to their belief, is that they are like, no, things are separate. No, this world is billiard ball mechanics and we don't affect it with our mind, because they don't see the result. And it's hard to see the result. Like, has anybody had a telepathic experience? Even if you have had that experience, would you have registered it? Are your perception, is your mental belief systems capable of experiencing it and recognizing it for what it truly is? Because our brain has the tendency to, work along the way that it feels comfortable and to not step outside of its beliefs, its pattern of thought. And I've had my experiences. I know I have, and I've spoken with a great deal of many other people who have had telepathic experiences, paranormal experiences where matter is shifted. I know I've experienced those things. I've shifted matter. Just the other day, my friend gave me this walking stick to carve and complete and have for my own self. And I was very grateful for this, obviously, but I was just thinking about how to basically structure this and carve it into a manner to perfect it, to basically use my will at making this a more honed work of art and beauty. And I waved it like I nonchalantly, like I wasn't even trying to wave it like a wand, but I just kind of like something, and then something like fell off my shelf. Something that had no business falling off of my shelf was just like knocked off after I waved it in the direction of this object. This happened just recently. This is just like, whatever, right? But I've had some pretty out there experiences similar to that. I've phased matter through other matter. I've phased liquid through a cup one time. Is one example. And so I don't really know what the topic of discussion is on this talk, but I guess I'm just saying that it's a cool reality. It's a very cool place to live. It's a cool existence, and the scary thing is that there are so many people who are limited in their beliefs and will limit other people in their beliefs. And there's so many people who are just so blind to it that they will actively limit another person's experience without knowing that they're limiting. How many times do you see a parent say, "Oh, don't do that. Don't play with that thought. There's nothing for you there when you think those thoughts. That's just your imagination." Or that's nonsense, that's not real kind of statement. How do you fucking know it's not real? Your thought, your eyes, nose, hands, brain could be so dull that you can't even experience that elaborate thing that your child is experiencing in real life. But education, you know, and I'm not trying to say that there's a big conspiracy. Not that I don't believe there isn't, because I believe that there is a conspiracy of indoctrination and secrecy going on. And I personally, I think that the evidence is, if you're willing to actually consider this to be a real thing, to say, oh, maybe there's a conspiracy going on, you must keep considering it in order to see. But there's a lot of evidence that points towards this type of stuff. It's crazy. Just the simple fact that I can have experiences where I'm affecting matter, where I'm having telecommunications with my brain and another human being's brain. You know, the idea of having these, you know, woo experiences. Even the idea that woo experiences is taboo to talk about in this society that we live in, that has been, you know, shaped and molded the way that it is. You know something's fucked. You know that it's fucked if you can't have open discussions about this type of thing without it being taboo. It's fucked. So, you know, like in my everyday life, I like to just be like, oh, like, what about this? Like, what about aliens? What about powers? Like, maybe you manifested that reality for yourself, you know, who knows? And I'll like toss in these comments to people, and they'll be like, oh, that's crazy. Like, I can see the gears are turning a little bit, but then on the surface level, they're like, oh, you're crazy, just and it's like, am I though? Like, I know I seem a fool, and I like to play that part openly, but you need to use your consideration skills, my friend. You know, you need to open that thinker box and step outside of the box. So there's a growing community these days of people who are trying to like get into the new age stuff, get into the spiritual woo of it all, and say, oh yeah, like paganism, like Wiccan witches, it's all great. Like, oh, we need to like magic and all that stuff is great. And that's cool. That's cool that there's like a bit of a renaissance for that type of thing going on. Like, you see all these hippies, you know, with their crystals and like, yo, good vibes, man. Love and light and all that stuff. And you just need to have a little bit more love, and we all just need to love and all that stuff. And it's like, that's not wrong. That is perfectly right. We do need more love. We do need more crystals. Fuck, who cares? Who knows? But that to me is a little bit too much of a passive stance on the world. Like, we've got like fucking child raping, if not completely maiming their mind, mafias out there working in the shadows. You know, we've got like political, corporate fucking like superpowers that are just like poisoning fucking nature and are just like completely fine with it whilst making billions of dollars doing it off of people who have no idea what's transpiring. You know, like the amount of unnatural things in this world that are going on is sickening. And you're gonna wave your crystal around and say we need to love more? Like, great, fucking keep doing that, but like, you're in grade 1 of, you know, high school of fucking initiates here. Like, and I shouldn't be saying shit because it's like, well, what am I doing? What are you doing, Chester? You're making videos, you're making the stuff. Like, what is that gonna do? It's like, Well, not really. I mean, I've got a lot of shit going on. I'm trying to move forward in my own things, and I don't ever cease to try to learn more and spread more knowledge in the world. Like that's my daily thing. But um, I guess I'm just trying to say that like there's more to it than love. Like it's we need to love, but we also need to conquer those things that are creating darkness. We need to we need to use our brains and our intellect to basically be like, here's a problem. Fucking shut that down. Like, here's a superpower of super funded, lot of monetary influence, groups of people, corporate supermind, masterminds that, waving crystals at them are not going to change them. Saying I love you is not going to change those corporate superpowers. We need to, first of all, determine why they're wrong. What is it that about them that is wrong? Like blanket statement, labeled wrong. This is not right. Should not be transpiring. We should not be allowing this to happen in our world. If we want anything to do with the ideal society, if we can recognize the difference between the ideal and the dystopian kind of structure, the dangerous, fucking destructive structure, and fucking entities and corporations and ways of thinking that do not help a fucking thing. If anything, they ruin shit. Why is this right? Why is this wrong? Why is being, nice and smart and helpful to your community and uplifting versus a lying, cheating, greeting, fucking raping motherfucking piece of shit over here? How can we have this? How come? Why do we have this? How can we have so many people who seem to think that it's okay to be this way? And, more and more fucking fucked up conspiracies are coming out that, strong political influences are on this side. Hollywood media, like fucking corporations and influences on, a lot of people's lives are on this side. How many Hollywood actors have been like, there's a fucking pedophilia ring out there. And I'm not saying that it's a fact. I'm not the one who can say to you that this is fact. I'm not the one. You need to find that someplace else. But there are people who seemingly can make that statement and can say, I've been there. I know. I've seen it. They're making the statement here that this is going on. We should be over here, obviously, in the light. We should be over here playing around and dancing and growing all kinds of delicious food and sharing that shit with the entire world. We shouldn't be fighting. No, that's not ideal. Is it ideal to be shaking somebody's hand and sharing your goods with them? Or is it ideal to be fighting and stabbing each other in the back? No, that's painful. That's suffering right here. And this suffering is going on still. We're sentient beings. We are beings with the capacity to know, to the capacity to use these complex thinkers up here to know the truth. We have the capacity. And there are groups of people, there are societies of people who think that it's beneficial for their personal gain to take away that ability to know from the masses. Do you understand the weight of that statement? They think that it's a good thing. They literally, psychopathically are like, it is good for me and my family if all these other people don't know the truth and are incapable of knowing the truth. So there are going to be a ton of people out there who are like, no, you're just a conspiracy theorist, Chester. You're just, but if you look at history, if you look at philosophy, Plato with the Plato's Cave, this was going on 2,300, 2,400 years ago. And perpetually hasn't stopped. If you look at the cases, even just looking at the Catholic religion, what the practices of the mystics before Catholicism, then the practices of mysticism in Catholicism, and the demonization of certain methods. Periodically, they're saying you can't do this practice. This is an evil thing. You can't have that knowledge. Even just in the Dark Ages, people, the laymen, the peasants, and the lower on the chain of the hierarchy of wealth and nobility, as it were, people who were not supposed to be smart, peasants and shit, if they were caught reading a book, they'd be killed. Like that. How is that not directly evil? And the thing that people don't understand is that those types of mentalities, those type of power, like domination mentalities of I want to be the ruler and I'm going to do so by suppressing other people, by enslaving and basically putting chains on other people so that I can have what I want. That domination, that tyrannical way of thinking, that has not disappeared. Like if you think that people in the world, people with power and wealth, don't have that way of thinking, you need to fucking just give your head a shake. Like, and I'm not saying that that's fact, because I'm not there. I'm just saying that there are reasons to, at the very least, consider that that's probably happening, and that we should probably make movements and actions to try and relegate that, But for somebody to say, none of that's going on, the people who lead us are righteous. Get your fucking head out of your ass, people. Like, how are you not seeing what's going on? So, it's a difficult thing to try and, it's such a dissonance, right? If somebody like me, or even somebody better than me, who wants to do right by the world, who is trying to and has acquired such knowledge about what's going on and potentially how to fix these problems, you have somebody who's trying to create a better world and trying to take away darkness in the world. He's trying to purify the lives of the entire planet. They're going to be met with such resistance from the type of people who are blind, who have absolutely no idea of what's really going on, absolutely no idea that there could be a better reality. Many of these people are incapable of fathoming how complex things really are, and how much of a change needs to be incepted before we can reach utopia, right? And it's not just a physical change. It's a mental change. It's a change of the frequency that I was talking about before. When I was talking about doing the spell and doing the attract witch friends spell. You know, I'm putting myself into a frequency of like connection, of being like, yeah, I want to connect with people who are smart. I want to connect with people who are not limited by the status quo, people who are not afraid to challenge the taboos of this world. That's exactly what I was trying to connect with, and that's what I connected with without even trying. That just came to me by changing the way I thought. So to apply that to shifting reality, right? It's like we can achieve this. It's not that difficult. This is still the ocean. This is the ocean too. It's just muddy ocean over here. And it's like we're sitting here in our scuba suit, and it's like, how do we flow with the ocean to create this over here, this light, loving, prosperous ocean? And it's like, it's not just a physical thing. We are one with the ocean. We have these powerful fucking radio frequency, like, what do you want to call it? We are a creator. We are co-creating this ocean, if you will. We are of the gods. So simply, I would suggest that, you know, you viewers at home, simply just putting your mind onto the idea that you yourself can achieve the ideal. You can move towards a better, more pure mental state. You can achieve, you know, deeper wisdoms. You just need to be open to it. And you need to be able to transform the way you see the world. And I don't mean that you need to see the world differently. You just need to be open to seeing the world differently. You need to open up that box, so to speak, and be like, maybe I don't have it all figured out. You know, maybe there is a better way. You know, if everybody on this planet did that, that alone would move us so much further towards the ideal society. You know, because there's so many people who are stuck. There's so many people who are mentally locked into the frequency of thought that they think is the only way to be. You know, like, wake up every day, do your work, put in your hours, come home, eat, sleep, and fucking be merry. But that's not ideal. That is what we've been doing for the past however many 100 years. And that's what's created this muddy waters. That's what's created the dirty fucking ocean that we live in right now. So in my work, in my great work, Chester, in my daily life, I try to be encouraging. I try to open minds. I try to be enthusiastic about, you know, breaking mental taboos, about being in a happy, content individual who's willing to be a part of a community. You know, like, that's really all it is like, break down all these chains, all these mental boundaries, all these ways of thinking. Fucking just progress. You know, just find the ideal. You have the capacity within yourself to find the ideal and to work towards it, to build the reality that you can envision as being a good one, you know. And so don't stress over it, right? Like, that's, anyways, I've touched on a lot of different things in this talk. I think that it's time for me to end it before I get too carried away on another string. of thinking. But I hope you guys enjoy my content. And as always, love is law, love under will. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Peace.